Hey guys, very impromptu, just got out of the shower. I've been waiting to make this video because I feel like the last 4 or 5 days, 6 days has kind of been a shitstorm, and I felt like it wasn't in my best place to give you such a what's the word I'm looking for? Such a reactionary, fresh opinion on the Mueller report and everything that's gone down. I want to give my thoughts on this because I feel like I have a pretty nuanced opinion about this that I haven't really had someone listen to my point and go, I agree 100%. It's always usually, I agree with that, but I also disagree with you on this point, and I think that you don't go in depth or hard enough or criticize as hard with X, Y, and Z. So I just want to give my point because I do feel like I have a pretty unique perspective on this whole Mueller report and I guess what the left or what the country should do from here on out. I mean, I have my doubts with people, even the best intentioned of people, when they use words like country and patriotic and, buzzwords like that. I've grown up always kind of having a churned stomach when those words are used. So I use that in like the most non-dog whistle politics way possible when I say what the country should do from now on. But I want to break this down. So the Mueller report came out, and I'm already tripping over myself because the way the media is spinning it, the way that people are celebrating this is so strange. The Mueller report never came out, right? We had the Barr summary of the Mueller report. There's a Mueller report, we haven't seen it yet. So when the right uses this talking point of the Mueller report, you have to stop them immediately because they're framing the conversation in, I think, depending on who you're arguing against, either they know that there is no Mueller report, but they want to frame it like this, so they're arguing in bad faith, or, either they don't know and you should let them know so that they can make a more logical, smart argument. It's a win-win. It's not a win-win because the right is full of idiots, so they're not going to listen anyways. But the point I want to get across is the Barr summary of the Mueller report came out, and it basically said, with the evidence and with the investigation and the research that the Mueller team has conducted, we cannot, under Mueller's team and under what Mueller has found with the evidence, we cannot say that. Well, we can say that the Trump or his associates in the campaign had no intention, I guess is the word you would use. We have no evidence to show that there was conspiracy against the United States. But at the same time, it did not come out, at least the Barr summary came out, or at least the Barr summary didn't come out and say on the collusion aspect, which is or not the collusion, but the obstruction of justice aspect that Mueller was also investigating on when he fired Comey. So it basically said, I wish I had done a little bit of research, that way it wasn't this embarrassing. We cannot say whether Trump has completely we cannot say whether or not Trump committed a crime or not during the obstruction of justice. The report does not fully exonerate the president, and I just want to go into the immediate reaction of the Mueller report. So, okay, well, actually, let's break this all down. So, from my perspective, because the right fucking sucks, let's start with the fucking right. Okay, the right for 2 years has been nonchalantly very, what they believe as intelligent, maybe even moral, maybe what they need to do. They believe that going up and saying, our institutions have been compromised, Mueller is, he cannot be a rational actor, he is working with the deep state, working with or colluding with all these major institutions, the FBI, CIA, DOJ, probably Homeland Security, probably a couple other institutions. They've been taken over by the deep state. They're not trustworthy. It's a witch hunt. You can't trust them, whatever they come up with. Well, not even that, but just what they're doing is they're trying to perform a coup d'etat against a rightfully elected president. For 2 years, we heard this talking point of you can't trust Mueller, you can't trust our institutions, the deep state's working around the clock to get rid of a duly elected president elected by you, the American people. You know, we heard this talking point. And then 48 to 72 hours after the Mueller report, all those talking heads who were totally being fucking disingenuous and totally fucking the most scum of the earth, the most immoral of the immoral, the absolute worst human beings on the planet Earth. All those fucking talking heads, disrespected, right? And like this opens up a whole other talking point that I don't necessarily know if I agree with, but it's certainly very interesting to discuss. These patriotic motherfuckers, the flag pin wearing talking heads that can't criticize America worth a shit even when America's fucking wrong and has done some crazy backwards fucking crazy shit. Okay, the most patriotic, in air quotes, the most patriotic motherfuckers criticized and demoralized and totally shit on our institutions, America's institutions. Those two things can't be. You can't hold those things at the same time. You can't do it. You can't be the most patriotic motherfucker on the block while also believing that the thing that you're patriotic for is taken over by a deep state conspiracy because your guy may or may not have done something wrong. That's not how that works. But that's a second irrelevant talking point that would be interesting to discuss. I think, and the reality that I think most people live in, that I live in, using my logic, using my head, using my brain, 48 to 72 hours after the Mueller report investigating, after believing, if you were a basic kind of normal, average, everyday Joe who doesn't really follow politics as intensely, and you watched, I don't know, let me just pick some random names out of my ass, Fox News, whether it be Sean Hannity, Laura Ingraham, Tucker Carlson, I believe, pushed this. Lou Dobbs is a crazy motherfucker. Who, and you walk away watching those shows believing that our institutions are compromised. Mueller is a bad person. He can't be trusted. It's a deep state conspiracy to overthrow a duly elected president of the United States. And then immediately turn around and say, Mueller? I mean, I can't really say. Like, you can't do that. Like you can't spout this nonsense for 2 years. And then this is where I have the biggest aneurysm, because I just don't understand how Trump can. The Barr summary of the Mueller report literally says this does not exonerate him. And what does orange fuckface idiot McGee go up and do? He fucking goes on Twitter and he says, full exoneration, okay, I have the best people with the best brain, okay, I am fully exonerated. Like, his hand-picked attorney general can't even say that, and he's too much of a fucking numbskull to not even say that. Like Trump would be able to get more people on his side if he didn't say stupid shit like that. Okay, and I don't want to feed into this narcissistic, horrible scum of the earth man, but it's true. Taking a step back from it and just looking at, facts and looking how he runs his presidency and how he runs his administration and how much of the populace is invested in politics and stuff. Saying stupid shit like that doesn't get you anywhere, right? Like, he would have more people on his side after the Mueller report came out and didn't say just such a basic, obvious lie by saying, full exoneration, people. Believe me, full exoneration. When his hand-picked attorney general said it's not a full exoneration. I don't understand. Like, you can't do that. Like, but the right's so fucking intellectually bankrupt that they don't fucking care. Like, they don't fucking care that this is literally the direct quote, the direct definition of hypocrisy. And usually when someone is hypocritical, you shouldn't be either a fan of them, support them, because you don't know when they're going to turn on you next. But it's not about actually holding principles and beliefs with the right. It's about reactionary thinking, reactionary feelings. Like, I'm totally against Mueller one day, but then the next day, Mueller is kind of this, like, decent person who was just kind of doing his job, maybe that I didn't agree with, but he had to do his job or something. Like, they don't hold any beliefs. They have no morals. They don't, when it comes to stuff like this, they hold no morals. And it's unbelievable that people fall for this shit. Like, people watch Sean Hannity every fucking night and go, yep, I definitely learned something of value tonight. Like, how? I don't understand. Something as blatant as this, right? Something as blatant as this. And people still can't come and just be like, okay, listen, you fucked up on this one. You're in the wrong. I'm sorry, but you done goofed, man. You done fucking goofed. And so, all right, so that's my reaction to the right. And of course it wasn't going to be like, oh, fuck yeah, they fucking got it right, man. Like, of course not. Now, of course, the mainstream media, fucking got it wrong too. Of course they did. Of course. And here's my criticism with the Democrats. The Democrats are so blinded by their loss in 2016 that they can't even, for 2 years, they couldn't even fucking frame it right. They had 2 fucking years to get this framing right. There were multiple investigations going on against Trump pre-presidency, post, or during the campaign, right when he won the election, to his presidency, on multiple different grounds, for multiple different, some are felonies, some are at a state level, the emoluments clause, all these different investigations that have nothing to do with the Mueller report, right? Or Mueller and his team, right? All these different investigations going on, right? The Democrats couldn't separate the Southern District of New York, the emoluments clause, the obstruction of justice, and that's the big one, the obstruction of justice. And they kept pushing this collusion narrative. They put all their eggs in this basket of collusion, conspiracy, whatever you want to say. We all know what they mean. And it fucking failed. Mueller did his, and of course it goes without saying that you can't be, Mueller is a deep state operative trying to overthrow a duly elected president of the United States to, man, Mueller's a good guy. That is the exact same as Mueller. We need to protect Mueller at all costs. He needs to finish his investigation. He needs to do it. He needs to do it without any interference. He needs to do it as quickly. But most importantly, he's the right man for the job, and he has to do it without interference, right? Well, was he corrupted by Russia? We'll never know. Like, that's the exact same. That's literally the exact same. So whoever's doing that on the left, I would argue probably, if you push them hard enough, probably isn't on the left. But that's my opinion. They probably would be generally accepted on the left. So whoever's doing that on the left needs to fucking stop. Okay, like I can come up here and make a 20-second video a day saying, hey, the right needs to stop being Mueller's a deep state operative trying to overthrow, do a coup on a duly elected president, right? For every day. But I have like a 2% faith in just those videos alone convincing any right wingers to change their stance on this. 2% of all right wingers watching that video, if I put that video up every day, 2% of them will either change their mind completely or be like, maybe I should stop doing that. But I expect more from my side or whatever, the people I closely aligned to, whatever kind of sports analogy you want, my team, whatever the fuck. So I equally condemn anybody on the left who was like, hey, Mueller's just the right guy for the job. He needs to do it without any interruptions and unimpeded, without being impeded on. I don't know. Well, was he a Russian operative? We'll never know. Like, that's not okay, right? So the Democrats fucked up the explanation. They just can't help themselves, man. They put all their eggs into collusion without making any I don't know how the fuck you say that word. Without making clear the different investigations, whether it's the emolument clause, whether it's the Southern District of New York and a bunch of other very valuable, going through the courts right now, very not valuable, but going through the courts right now, very valid, very real cases against the President of the United States. All those are very real. All those are going through the courts right now. But collusion, it was weird that they decided to put all their eggs into that basket, and they completely messed up the narrative. They conflated the two. The American people, right? So, taking a step back, the Democrats, what I would like to see done is completely different from what I predict will happen. What I would like to see done is all 2020 Democratic candidates, and as a whole, the Democratic Party and the Democratic machine, move away from collusion. You could talk about obstruction of justice, but it's not, until more evidence is shown, it's not a major talking point that you should talk about. But especially focusing on the 2020 candidates, they absolutely need to go to more policy substantive plans. They need to step away from Russia. They need to go to, you want fucking healthcare because you don't want to fucking die? All right, here's what we're going to do. We, as a government, take in $4 trillion. We're going to lower your tax rates. We're going to totally get rid, no, not totally get rid of, but we're going to totally do a Medicare for all system. If you want more, maybe, I don't know, if you want to pay for, extra stuff in your healthcare, go right ahead. I'm not in favor of totally abolishing private health insurance companies, but if you want to pay for whatever reason, go right ahead, but you get basic access to healthcare. You get, they move towards trying to fight back in the realm of the marketplace of ideas per se. In the realm of the Green New Deal, you push back against the talking points the right's using against that. You push for that. You push for an infrastructure plan that the government's going to use. Tax rates, war in the Middle East, you push for that. You push for all these, and you lay it out so specifically, and you put it up on your website. You give people graphs, because the American people are more interested into that stuff than strategists around these 2020 candidates will make them believe. Like, we give a shit about those specific details that they tell you they don't care about it. It's okay. They don't care about it. So they need to move away from the Russia thing. They need to push for these policy substantive ideas like yesterday, like 2 months ago. Like, this is something that the Democrats should have always been doing, but they haven't. So that's what I would like to see or that's what I would like to see be done. Here's what I think will happen. Democrats in the mainstream media will now try to differentiate the investigations. And it's a day late and a dollar short, man. You should have done that from day one. You should have, someone, whether it be fucking CNN or fucking NPR or fucking the most leftist of left news outlets, someone should have had the balls to be like, all right, let me break this down. We've got Mueller and his investigation, and he's doing two things. He's doing collusion, whether it's pre or post election, pre-campaign, post-campaign, whatever it's called. And then he's also doing an obstruction of justice for when Trump fired Comey. Those are the two investigations he's doing. So when we say Mueller, we do not mean just collusion, because he's also searching and going into the obstruction of justice aspect. They also should have said the emoluments clause has passed through a couple, I think 2 or 3 lower courts. It's moving up in the court circuit. That is a very valid case. That is a very real case with real charges, with real evidence that you should be aware of. You should also be aware of the Southern District of New York and their case on a state level, which is completely different than on a federal level. Trump could get cleared 100%, exonerated of all federal crimes, and the state could still prosecute him for the state level crime in the Southern District of New York. The campaign violations and the hush money that was paid, I don't necessarily know if I would have to look at more into that, see if he actually did it, see if he actually did break campaign finance reform. That would also be another major talking point I would use if you were a Democratic hopeful for the president in 2020. Campaign finance, overturning Citizens United somehow, some way, whether it's through the states and a state convention to adding an amendment to the Constitution, whether it be through the Supreme Court, who knows? That would be another major talking point. So what I predict will happen is they'll now differentiate between all the different cases that Trump's actually being investigated with, but it's a day late and a dollar short, because the American people will, because being a right-winger is so incredibly easy, and their talking points are so incredibly easy to repeat because it's so simple and it's such a one-dimensional, fucking closed, one-eyed view of the world. Mueller did his report. That's the end of the story. There was no collusion because Mueller was only investigating collusion. There's nothing else to be said. Right? I mean, Mueller basically handed off the obstruction of justice part. Where did he hand it off to? He handed it off to the Attorney General, the Department of Justice, I think. He handed it off to the Department of Justice and basically said, listen, I have strong evidence for he totally committed obstruction to, he didn't do any obstruction. I'm going to leave it up to you guys to make that decision yourself. I feel like either it's not my place or I just don't want to or whatever. I don't fucking know. There's a lot of strings being pulled that there's a lot of shit that happens behind these investigations that we don't ever see the light of day. So there's a lot going into them. So they're very complex. And it's why when I hear conservatives talk about the Mueller report and it's such a one-dimensional, very plain, very non-critical way of looking at it, it really grinds my gears, because there's a lot of shit that the DOJ, the FBI, the CIA, the Homeland Security know that we don't even know. So for you to have this very sure of yourself 100%, I know I'm not wrong, view of this is very disheartening. They'll separate the cases. The American people won't have it. It'll be hard to gain support for even if, like, let's be honest, when the Mueller report does come out, because it will come out after it goes through the processes of redactions and taking things out that will be deemed as national security threats, there will be damaging stuff about Trump and his administration about obstruction of justice. But at the same time, there will probably also be very valid points as to why he didn't do obstruction of justice. So Democrats should take this very seriously, should take it very carefully, but I believe they won't. I believe that they will not. I believe that they'll they'll rush, they'll be very hasty when it comes to the obstruction of justice charge. And it's a lot of political power, a lot of political capital to start an impeachment hearing. And depending on how damaging and how damning the Mueller report is when it comes to the obstruction of justice part, we're just going to have to wait and see. So also, I just want to give some very... I hate to say props because, like, this is a no-brainer and it shouldn't have taken as long as it did. But when Betsy DeVos announced that she was cutting funding for the Special Olympics, and Trump said, "I have overridden my people. I overridden them. Okay, believe me, I overrid them. Okay, we have to fund it. We got to fund it, folks. We got to fund it. Okay, and we're going to fund it because we have the best people that make some stupid things, but they're still the best. Trust me, I hire the best. It's all about me. Okay, I do the best. I overrid. I'm the power. I am the president. I do what I want. We have to fund it. We're going to fund it, folks. Believe me, make America great again. Barack Obama is born in Kenya." Okay, like, that was I'm totally exhausted. But the fact that, like, we all know that Trump is playing political games when he goes out and says, like, "I've overridden my people." Like, we all know that, right? Like, that's the basis of this conversation. And the fact that we even have a Secretary of Education that's like, retarded people? Fuck them. I have a joke that Donald Trump can't be Hitler because he's not going after the mentally handicapped. But that's not funny at all. Donald Trump can't be a fascist. He left the retarded people out of his final solution, if you get what I'm saying. So yeah, some very... all right, imagine if you took some... I don't even know how to explain it. Just some very, like, no shit, Sherlock props to the President of the United States. Like you shouldn't be getting props for this because, like, this is a no-brainer. You just got a very, very fucking stupid person at the Department of Education, and it shows. Like, it shows when this shit happens. Like, motherfucker, Betsy DeVos didn't even go to public school. How the fuck is she gonna know anything about public school and the schooling system? Like, that doesn't even make any fucking, like, Secretary of State, that's a very interesting position. Do a lot of great things. I'm going to get me. Like, imagine if he put me at Secretary of State. Like, that doesn't even make any... I'm a fucking shift leader at Chick-fil-A. Like, I'm a team lead at Chick-fil-A. I don't fucking know anything about the Secretary of State. Like, she paid to go to school. She doesn't know how the public school system works. Oh, well, why don't we just have a schooling system where all the kids are rich? I don't understand. Yeah, because you're a fucking idiot. All right, sorry, I just had to throw that in there because that really grinds my gears. Like, first I was like, wow, good job, Trump. And then I realized, like, why the fuck are we giving props to something like this? This is something that doesn't deserve... It deserves props because Trump's a fucking psychotic maniac. And I'm glad that he has Even if it's this big, he's got a heart for the mentally handicapped. But, like, literally anyone else, anyone else, like, I don't, like, maybe another Republican would try to cut the Special Olympics funding, but they'd be doing it in a more political way. It wouldn't be this big of a, they'd probably put it into, like, a fucking national security bill. And so, like, we're going to put Ted Cruz is going to propose a fucking bill to the Senate where it's like Article 1, Section 1, cops, every Muslim person in America will always have a team of 3 cops standing by them at all times. Every Muslim majority street, for every 10 Muslims, there will be 1 cop. There will always be a cop in a mosque. Section 2, we're going to defund Special Olympics by 15% or 20% or whatever the number is. Like, they do it in a more sophisticated way, but Trump's a fucking idiot. And Betsy DeVos is really who we should be going after. Betsy DeVos is such a fucking idiot that she can't even do that, right? And Trump's a fucking idiot for picking Betsy DeVos because she's a fucking idiot. So everybody's fucking idiots, okay? That's basically the point of this video. So I hope that was pretty clear. I do want to make one more point. I think it's fair to say that, and this is going to sound a lot harsher than it is, and I really got to wake up for this because I really need this point to come across. It's pretty valid to say the institutions did fail with a big asterisk, with a big old asterisk at the end of that sentence, because while we did have a few rotten apples, right? The deep state narrative, as fucking crazy as it was, like 0.00001% of that, the absolute minute of the minute part of that was somewhat kind of on a good day sort of true. With people like, you know, Page and Strzok or whatever, and and even McCabe to a certain extent. But as the institutions kind of sort of somewhat failed when it comes to those few people, the institutions also sorted themselves out. They were either caught, they were ratted out, they were removed from the investigations. There were There were safeguards implemented in the institution themselves to protect from this sort of thing. You know, I would like to argue that in the most cynical way possible, when McCabe said that they thought about the 25th Amendment, we have to remember that the 25th Amendment has to start with the president's cabinet, vice president, probably chief of staff, I think Speaker of the House, and maybe a couple other positions. But whatever McCabe was at had no major influence, at least no immediate influence, because of the specific group of people that tasked to start the 25th Amendment. McCabe had no influence on that at all. So while it is somewhat sort of in the most minute way possible, sort of scary that I think he was deputy director of the CIA or whatever McCabe was, the deputy director of the CIA thought about the 25th Amendment. That's sort of like weird to think about, like kind of, but at the same time, in the most cynical way possible, in the absolute most cynical way possible, I think that every department thinks about what happens if the president gets assassinated. What happens if we have to use what happens if they have to use the 25th Amendment? What happens? Here's our institution's plan in case they have the 25th Amendment. I don't think it's that crazy to think that all these major players, that all these major institutions that help keep America functioning as much as we possibly can, even though we're not functioning at all, what little functionability we have left, it's not that crazy to think that everybody possibly since Nixon in these major positions has had a plan, a backup plan, a plan W about what if his cabinet decides to use the 25th Amendment against him. What will this institution do? How will we play it out? What can we do to keep the functioning keep our government functioning, etc., etc., etc. It's not that crazy to think about. They probably had one for Obama. They probably had one for Bush. They probably had one for Clinton. They probably had one for HW. They probably had one for Reagan. They most definitely probably had one for Ford and Carter. And it probably started with Nixon. So it's not that crazy to think about. It sounds bad when you read the headlines, but when you think about it, I kind of would want our institutions to have a plan like this for any president. If Bernie Sanders became president tomorrow, I would want, fucking whoever's at the CIA right now and the FBI to be like, well, okay, what do we do if they use the 25th Amendment or impeachment hearings start, or he gets assassinated, or he resigns unexpectedly? What will this institution do from that specific day in that specific theory or possibility go forward? What will this institution do going forward after these specific possibilities? So while it's fair to say that our institutions failed, I also think our institutions prevailed because it had these safeguards in it that got rid of these rotten apples to make sure that Mueller operated with complete efficiency, without any interruptions, and as fast as possible. I had one last point, and I can't remember what it was because it's so fucking late at night. Let me think. I can't remember. If I think of it, I'll probably put it on Twitter. I probably have already put it on Twitter. Follow me at Twitter at Politic Jargon, I think. Politic Jargon. Because political jargon, I think, doesn't fit, or someone has it. I don't know. I think it's Politic, Politic, Jargon, Jargon. Politic Jargon. Follow me on Twitter. Get all my hot takes. Get all my thoughts on political news. So that's it for my video. I'm still trying to think of that last point. The institutions failed, but at the same time they prevailed because they did get rid of all the rotten apples. I can't remember. Anyways, that's my thoughts on this Mueller report thing. Solidarity, guys. They just announced the Democratic primary. The first one, I think, is June 26th and 27th, I think. So 2020 is ramping up, guys. Let's keep it together. Let's get progressive people elected. What's the hashtag? Sorry, it's so late. Not any blue will do. I think that's very valid. Get ready for a bunch of angry, very upset Hillary Clinton fans if Bernie does move on. But that's a whole other video, and I don't have the energy or the time to do that right now. So 2020 is ramping up. Mueller Report is being put through the channels of being redacted. And what was the other thing we talked about? Oh yeah, Betsy DeVos is a fucking idiot. All right, solidarity, people.